All right. My second question was, when did you guys pick up the manga? I'm assuming you
Mm.
didn't pick it up in 1997 at the
Yeah.
when he first started writing it. When did you guys hop on?
Can
When
we
did you get off the
backtrack a
anime?
bit? I actually wanted to ask, like, how did you guys first get into One Piece? And I think it'd
That's a
be a
great
great
question.
segue to like, how did we get into manga? Because it's
Mm.
three of us that are reading right now, and it's only you that are Gabe, right? That's not reading, right?
Damn,
Mm.
yeah, it's just me.
Yeah, go first if you'd like.
I think for out of the two of us, V, I think you should start.
Let's see. Well, I watched a lot of other anime,
Mm.
and like I had caught up with everything else that I was watching. This was like around the time when like Naruto finished,
Right.
and like I fell off on Bleach, and I was looking for other anime to watch, and I was like, I like personally, I like a lot of shonen, and
Mm.
like I like animes that have a lot of like episodes, just because like when I delve into it, like I want to keep watching, and like I was in love with Fairy Tail at the time. And
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, like this is One Piece, like this is critically acclaimed. I was like, it had like at the time it had like 700 episodes, and I was like, all right, like this is perfect for me. I'm gonna binge.
Yeah.
And then I started getting into it, and then oh my god, before I knew it, I fell in love. And then I put Youssef on as well.
So
Nice.
it's actually interesting, right? I remember for me, when I first got introduced to One Piece, I first came to the States, Toonami, the 4Kids version.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
same.
The only thing that the 4Kids version did right was that one of the theme songs, Yayo, Yayo.
Dude, that
Remember
is
that?
yeah,
so
that's
The pirate
classic.
rap.
right?
That's
And I remember
classic.
being a kid that didn't even fully know English, and I was like, "Yo, there's bumps, bro, right?"
That's
And so like
classic.
that's when I first remembered. It's like, "Yo, who's this stretchy kid?" And it was just like I didn't keep up with it because Naruto was at the forefront. You know, it's a kind of a starter pack for anime, right?
Of course.
And like that's how I first got to know about One Piece. You know, later to come to find out, you know, I've known V for quite a while. You know, I've known him since fourth grade, and so yeah, like we kind of grew up, and so like around like the end of high school, beginning of college, he was getting into it, and you know, it was something that he was like really talking to, and he was talking to our friend Vic about it. I was like, yo, this
Mhm.
sounds interesting. That old weird wacky animation you know anime is like is
Yeah.
it really that bumping, and like I started sneak watching, and then he was like, yo, who is in Romance Dawn on my account? And I was like, that's me. So like that's how I started, you know, with One Piece. And it was like, yeah, man, I finally took your word, and I'm watching it. So I started, I think, watching around 2017.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It took me a little while where I
Excuse
binged
me.
through like up until pre-time skip. Great. And then I hit a little stump
Bump in the
around
road.
Fishman Island. Fishman Island was a bump.
Same,
Yeah.
same.
And
When I
then
was binging it, the past Fishman Islands, everybody talks shit about Punk Hazard. I got right through
nah,
Punk
bro,
Punk
Punk
Hazard.
Hazard's
Hazard
fly,
fire.
I got
yo.
right. Thanks,
What?
fellas. Thank you,
Yeah.
fellas.
Bro,
You
you're
guys know
not
what
the
you're
only
talking
one.
about.
You're not the only one. Me and V are raising like a cult of people that are like getting into One
Punk
Piece right
Hazard
now. It's
people.
you don't even know. Like we have like five each on each side right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what the main thing sometimes I hear is like people really slowing down around Fishman Island. Again, it has a lot of for me personally, a lot of
the villain
importance to
sucks.
the
Yeah,
grander
that's what
The
story,
the
villain
villain's
but it
sucks. That's
wasn't
what
trash.
it
a
is.
hard hitter for me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear it from you too. But like that's how I got into the anime itself. How about you, Tyler?
We have a pretty similar origin story there because I can when you brought up the opening, I have visions of watching it on TV when I was a kid, like early elementary school, and not really knowing. I was mostly into Naruto and Dragon Ball Z when it was coming
Right.
on, and then that would just be on and it'd be cool. I actually heard that One Piece rap like recently, like in the past month, and I was like, geez, dude, this is nuts. This is what they're actually saying. But I used to read it in Shonen Jump physically. Like I'd go to the local grocery store, whatever, and get the Shonen Jump. And I remember getting into it with the Alabasta arc. That's when I was really reading it week by week. And that was just so dope. For a while, I think I just kind of put it down because I've just never really been a watcher. I'd watch it to enhance the stuff I've read. So like, pivotal
Interesting.
scenes and really cool stuff. And I remember picking it back up. I think it was about middle school around when they were doing Impel Down and stuff. So I remember picking that up off the
Good shit.
library. Dude, that
Good
was a
shit.
great little
That's good
reintroduction to
shit.
me. And then from there, I just kept up with reading it, and I still to this day do, and I probably will, not probably will until the end.
And yeah, that's what you just mentioned. That's why I was like, pretty soon I have to really catch up all the way because I want to be there when it ends. Because you want to talk about
Yeah.
spoilers. Once the One Piece is truly revealed, that will be all over Twitter.
Yo,
Everybody's
Yeah,
gonna know.
it drops.
Which is why eventually I
have no
do plan on
time.
reading the manga because it's like you're not gonna be able to avoid those spoilers.
And it's gonna be instant. The second it comes out, like
Right.
you better stay off the internet.
It's funny that all of us watched it on Toonami back in the day with I was gonna say with the 4Kids,
Yep,
which is why Toonami was so important back in the day before like the internet really took off with like,
it's true.
you know, watch cartoons or kiss anime and shit like that. It's like Toonami was where you really got going on everything.
Yeah.
And eventually when Toonami goes away, you grow up, you get into sports or whatever, and then you come back because it's like it is an amazing art form, not just One Piece, but anime in general is amazing art
Right.
form. You're eventually going to return to, if you're open minded for it.
Right.
But yeah, I was watching it on the 4Kids dub on Toonami. I remember on Saturday nights it would come on after Naruto, I think,
Yeah,
right
classic.
before they hit that parental advisory for Adult Swim. And then yeah, I stopped watching anime altogether. Dragon Ball Z Kai comes out on Nicktoons and like when I was in like 6th grade. That ignited me, DBZ Kai to Bleach to Full Metal Alchemist. And then my boy
Yes.
gives me a DVD set of One Piece, the first voyage, the Funimation dub, which is pretty good. Of course, I'm pro sub and everything, but Funimation dub is pretty good. It's better than the 4Kids dub.
Absolutely.
That got me.
Agreed.
I got all the way to Skypiea, and when I got to Skypiea, I stopped. And then I would just sort of spoil myself on YouTube and just watch clips
Yeah.
and shit, clips of Marineford, all that stuff.
No.
You gotta see
Ooh,
that whole one.
That's
You gotta
blasphemy,
watch-
man. Like,
that one you gotta watch. You got. I mean, you have by now. You've seen it, right? You've
Oh,
seen.
of course.
Marineford
Well,
all through.
yeah, and then pandemic comes around, and that's when I watched everything straight up
Right.
from the beginning. I didn't pick up at Skypiea. I started at Romance Dawn all
Real
the way
fresh.
fully sub.
fully subbed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm much more on the sub wave nowadays. I used to
Yeah.
like back in the day it would be dub, but now I'm like, nah.
Some
You gotta
dubs are
experience
good.
it.
Some dubs are really
They
good.
are,
Yu
but
Yu
I feel like
Hakusho, Dragon
yeah.
Ball Z, those are great dubs.
And it just feels like it's more true to the art itself, you know,
I
like
feel
even the
you, yeah.
voices, it just makes more sense for them to be doing the actions they're doing with the kind of zany voices that are along with it. It just seems more true to character.
I think that's a very good point you bring up. Like, my sister personally, she is getting into My Hero.
Oh, nice.
And when I was just giving her the chance, I was like, hey, I know you're lazy and you don't want to read, but like just watch the first 5 minutes and dub and then just watch and sub. And she's like, I'm never watching dub again. It's like, because you lose so much richness. Like, as you said, like the
Yes.
intonations, the inflections, Japanese specifically, like you can hear, like, it's not just words that come across, but so much more with that language. And, like sub all the way. That's what it is for me.
Far more
Yeah.
passionate. Far more passionate.
Yes.
That's my thing with English dub. There are a couple really good English dub actors, and they'll voice like 5 different guys in the show. Where
Yeah.
sub, it's like most of the guys are pros.
Yes.
Where it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying I started with dub. Most people do, especially here in America. You start with dub. That's how you get into it. That's how you got into it with Toonami.
Yeah.
I think we got to everybody how we started One Piece.
Well, do you guys ever find, because something I hear people that also they're hesitant with anime in general is with subs. They're like, oh, but if you're reading it, do you miss the scene? Or like, I don't want to be like reading while I'm watching. But I find the merits are if you're much more engaged for one, because you have
Yes.
to read it and follow
Yes.
it along. You can't just text and do all this shit at the same time. But I'm finding nowadays, you don't miss shit in the scene either. Like there's enough time to look up and look down. What do you
You've
guys
trained
think?
your eye, There's some meme about it. It's like, oh yeah, like the guy opens up his Sharingan.
And he can
it's like a sub watcher.
That's
Yeah, it's like
hilarious.
after like 10 episodes of any anime, you're good with the subs. Like you're a pro from there.
I mean, you have peripherals, so like you're
Right.
seeing other things besides
Yeah.
just the text.
True.
So, I don't think the reading like really inhibits you. I definitely agree with you, Tyler. Like it's definitely much more engaging.
It makes you feel more present. But Kind of going back to your first question, Gabriel, about how like where we got into reading, right?
Mhm.
So for me specifically, um, it's interesting actually because I was catching up to Vangel in the anime, and at that time we were finishing up Whole Cake Island.
Mm.
And I remember literally the first chapter I read was a banger. It was, and I think you should like this is where you should start too if you could, if you have the availability. Chapter number 903.
Oh
Right
shit.
after, and I was like, I was scratching. I was like, I just finished the fight with Katakuri. What is it? I needed like things to get done. And I started reading the Reverie,
Mm.
and right after the Reverie, and the that one is where spoiler alert, where what is it? Luffy gets crowned prematurely, in my opinion, the
The
fifth
fifth
Yonko,
Yonko. Yeah.
right?
Right,
But
right.
Yeah.
and I think that's
Slow down
actually a
there.
great place for you to start because the way they execute it in the manga versus the anime
Mm.
is very different. It's still the same scenes, but how they're cut up and the sequence and the flow of things. Personally, I like the animation. However, the flow of things is a lot uh, better and how do I say fluent in the manga. And so
Mm.
from 903, finishing the Reverie, going into Wano Kuni, that's where I continued
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah.
And like soon afterwards, it's funny. I think he'll tell you he's not much of a reader, but as soon as I told him like, "Hey, yo, man, get on this," and when he started reading, I'll let
Never
him take
stop.
over.
You
I'll
get
let him take
hooked,
over. To
bro.
be
Stop, man.
honest,
Never
like
stop.
You get
Um,
hooked. It's got this charm. It pulls you in and it keeps you there. You got to keep reading it.
it does. It absolutely does. And I think like the great thing about like when we finally started reading the manga, we read like at the beginning of the Reverie, which
Mhm.
like at that point it was new, but like the pacing of it was just so much different from the anime. Because like
Right.
because like what they did in the anime, like you know how like One Piece like periodically like shows like black figures, right? It's like a massive
Foreshadows.
visual.
That's what we were talking
Yeah,
about earlier. Yeah.
yeah. Not only like foreshadows, but like it shows you like the figures. So like a figure
Yeah.
of Odin, like the figure of
Right.
Shanks, right? But like it's all
The
blacked
third
out. Like
admiral. The
the
green
the
Right.
green
third,
bull.
third admiral, yeah,
Our
then
boy.
Goku, yeah. Im-sama, like all
Yeah.
of those figures
That
are
was
were like
nuts.
were blacked out like in the manga, and like we had to wait like a week, in order to see who that was,
Mm.
and then that whole time it just builds anticipation and it builds excitement, and you're
Mhm.
just like, who's that figure? What's he doing there? Like,
Yeah.
why is he there? For what purpose? Like, what's he adding to the story? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just brings so many questions and like it just brings so much more hype to it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool. He has a
And,
character foreshadow themselves by doing that. That's
and that
pretty
goes
cool.
back to earlier.
Absolutely.
You guys mentioned, one of you mentioned the cover art stories, which
Mm.
is like, I don't read the manga. I know about them. I know about, oh, you think this guy's dead? Not really, because we see him in this. And
Right. They got the
you
cover
guys were talking
story.
about spoilers. After this, I'm going to talk about the sales and whatnot, and then we're going to get into arcs. And
Cool.
after I talk about sales, if you really don't want to be spoiled, you can bounce, because we're going to get, when we talk, I want you guys to let loose,
It's
I want you guys
time.
to let loose. Don't worry about spoilers anime wise, because I'm here.
Oh yeah.
Or don't spoil the manga, but up to episode 1,000, say whatever you want.
Let's do it.
But yeah, certain characters that you think are dead or that you think aren't affiliated with so and so, you'll see them like in a cover art story, which
Yeah.
maybe we can touch on later because we're still in no spoiler territory.
Yeah.
Let me real quick, just to get us back on track, I'm gonna do a quick just talk about the sales of One Piece. Like, this is massive for people who don't understand like the sales and whatnot. Like, One Piece is unlike anything almost in the world, really. um I read total sales, and forgive me if I don't have the exact dates and whatnot, but total sales all time, it's in terms of comics, it's really second only to Superman.
Yeesh.
Which is like saying something, right? Because everybody knows Superman. Superman was at 600 million copies sold all time.
Mhm.
One Piece is at 490 million, I believe. And then Batman is at 484, and then Spider-Man's at like 370, and then Gogol 13, which I never got into. It's an anime. That's been going on since the 60s.
Right.
Still going on now, and that's up there too. But One Piece just crushes almost everybody.
That's a really good point you bring, I think, with like it's only under Superman. But then when we put the time, perspective on it, like
Superman,
the
yeah,
action comics started around like what
Yes.
the 1940s, maybe 30s, if I'm not,
right.
like,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. And it's like, hey, One Piece is just as old as us, only about two and
Yeah.
some change decades, and it's crushing in numbers. I remember,
Mm.
passing by this meme, and then it said that One Piece outsold the Bible.
Yeah.
The
Oh, man.
Bible,
That's
man.
what V
Like,
said the other
like,
day in the chat. Yeah.
Crazy.
like Goda rolled up to God and said, "Hey, yo, give me my throne, bro." Like,
Yo,
literally,
he
like,
said, yo, I got a story for you now. I got something for you. And it does, even to your point, not just the time, but the diversity of writers that go into a Superman or a Batman or a
Mhm.
Spider-Man, or storylines that don't have to be related to each other but become fan favorites. Like some stories that become the staple of the character don't necessarily have to be related to every other illustration.
Right.
Oda is writing one story with one storyline, obviously with its threads in
Yes.
between it, but it's one contained world that has to keep going and is outselling whole teams, whole departments dedicated to certain superheroes.
That's a fantastic point. I was talking about that earlier because my friend just watched, to get a little off track, my friend just watched Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, the cartoon one, which
Love
I love.
it.
It's my
Love
favorite
that one.
Spider-Man movie.
Mine
Right.
too.
like-
Dude,
He's like, oh, but it's not connected with what I'm like. What do you mean it's not connected? There's a million. It's a American comic book. There's a million versions of everything. Like, who cares about that shit? Where, like you say, it adds even more hype to Oda, where it's like, yeah, this is one story. This is one guy for the most part. Of course, I'm sure he has assistants, especially at this point after 20 years. You got to have assistants. I'm assuming he does.
Yeah.
He has a
definitely.
staff. All these guys have staffs, especially when they get to that level. The fact that it's really just him doing it is just adds to it.
I've always wondered what you said, the assistants, like what they did, because I always knew they were around. And besides, maybe admin stuff or whatever, but I've heard like assistants will help draw backgrounds for things. Maybe not One Piece specifically, but just mangakas in general.
Yeah.
I didn't know assistants would actually, assist with the drawing. And then you got to
Right.
think, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, dude. You look at all of these intense backgrounds, and sure, Oda, I'm sure, handles a lot of them, but every single panel of every single page, it's just crazy. You don't sleep.
That's my thing with Tagashi, who's all constantly on hiatus and health issues and whatnot. It's like, bro,
Yeah.
just put more. Your art isn't that great, anyways, especially at this point in time. Like, it's stick figures and shit. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking about Hunter x Hunter. You got to like just hook up, just give us some assistance. I'm sure the assistants can do a good job, and just give them the base story, which I
Yeah.
heard. Forgive me if I'm wrong. You guys would know this. Oda has giving. There's a few people who know the end. Where it's like,
I think like his editor knows.
if something
know
happens to
that.
him, we can continue the story. Of course, it will
Whoa.
never be the same, but knock on wood, hope that never happens. But
Right.
one of my biggest fears in life is after Berserk, the creator of Berserk passing, which was terrible. After
Yeah.
that happening, my biggest fear in life is One Piece not completing.
We cannot let that happen. That
Yeah.
man is an international treasure.
Yeah, keep him safe.
Yeah,
Put him in a bubble.
right. Exactly.
No, that's too celestial dragon for me, man. I don't know if I want him to be like that.
Yeah, but
Uh.
just a little more on the sales. As soon as it got its anime in 1999, manga starts in 97. As soon as it gets the anime in 99, not long after, it's top of the charts in Japan. For a brief period in 2005, 2006, it gets surpassed by Nana in Death Note for like a split second. And then it
Right.
just, after that, it shoots up. Like, it just crushes the competition. Hunter x Hunter was second for a while, but it's like, it's, I don't even know how to compare it. It's like Michael Phelps versus other swimmers. It's like the gap was so large.
Yeah.
Attack on Titan came closer to, we know how popular Attack on Titan was in 2013. It comes close. It still doesn't surpass One Piece. Demon Slayer crushed One Piece at one. Demon Slayer, that's like the biggest Cinderella story of all time. And it leads me to wonder like what would happen if Demon Slayer was like a long term. That's why One Piece is supreme, because it's kept the
It's
same.
been hype
forever.
the whole time.
Demon
It's
Slayer
just
for a
sustainable.
year, Demon Slayer had like 82 million sales to like One Piece's 7 million
Right.
once, which is just
That's nutty.
mind-boggling.
Yeah, that's nutty.
And the fact that Demon Slayer only ran for the whatever amount of years, just a few
Mhm.
years, and it's in the all-time manga sales all time.
Mm.
Like, up there with shit that's been around for 30 years. It's just crazy.
It's just a testament to what the level of what this story needs to be equated to. Like in the West, even though it still sells so much and it has such a culture, I don't know if in mainstream popular culture, if it's realized what it's like. It's up there with Harry Potter, like, you know, and I'm trying to think of stories or other authors that, and not just sit from the sales side, but the length of time, the one world, and then also the grand stories that has to be told. And
Yeah.
people that come to mind are like J.K. Rowling, you got George R.R. Martin, fucking Homer and the Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
These are all what it's compared to. And
It's
that's pretty incredible.
It's unmatched, man. And then, yeah, we were referring to this earlier. Just real quick, I looked up like what his work schedule is like. He works 17 to 20 hours a day. He sleeps in his office 6 days a week, and then once in a while he'll get out of the office and have like a day to himself. But for the most part, like this is most manga artists, which is why it's insane, which is why I don't know if I said this when we started recording or not, but any like athletic, Brady's my like I pray at the altar of Brady. I kneel at the altar of Brady when it comes to like sports, Jordan, all that shit, whatever.
Yeah.
This is like just as impressive, if not more impressive, not just mentally, obviously mentally, but physically, for someone to, they just don't get the respect they deserve. Manga artists in general, when you're talking about like how much work goes into it, where like Hollywood directors, no disrespect to directors, it's an impressive profession, but like they don't have to do nearly as much work with this. Like manga, it's really their baby.
Yeah, it's extreme dedication and testament to their craft. And it's good that you said sports figures as an example, because they do have to form an all-around skill set still. They got to learn how to write a story, how to draw a character, how to do panels, how to, you know, the frequency of publishing. Just like a sports, you know, LeBron has to know how to dribble, how to shoot, how to pass, how to do all that shit. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a testament to greatness. But it's crazy the testament that you have to make, because that's their entire life. His whole life is a world that's fictional. So it's like, how does he relate to the outside world?
I always think about that. Like in some animes are really relatable. It's like, how do you never leave your house? How would you know this?
All you're thinking about is a guy that can stretch his arm like rubber, like people that can turn into fire. How do you just have a normal conversation with somebody?
These guys are different human beings, man. They're another species.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Anything to add, V or Youseff? Because we're about to enter the best part of this podcast.
I was just gonna add a little bit to the industry side, in terms of like sales. Well, not only are they crushing it in sales, but like the One Piece market in general, like they sell plushies, you know, like
Chopper,
they sell other commodities besides just the manga
dolls.
volumes. Like the Chopper dolls are literally sold out all the time.
The merch king. Yeah.
Literally the merchandise king, you know? So
yeah,
Oda is definitely well off, and like the profitability of it is through the roof. Not only in Japan, but like in the East as well too.
Yeah, that's Chopper's. That's Chopper. That's the best part of Chopper's, probably the merch he's sold. We're gonna talk about like our favorite Straw Hats, and then maybe some characters that we're not so fond of. I feel like Chopper, you know, he's
I think I see what you're meaning. He's kind of been almost appointed just the merch mascot in a sense. You know,
I mean,
time skip, it's a very different Chopper versus
what I'm talking about. Post time skip, he hasn't done shit, bro.
Hey!
I know.
You're not caught up with Wano.
I've been spoiled one thing in Wano that we won't talk about on the pod, but I know Chopper does something soon. But until then, he really didn't. He was good in Punk Hazard. Like that's why I love Punk Hazard. He had a role in it, helping those kids and whatnot. Besides that,
you bring up a very good point that I want to touch on after we cover what we want to talk about, and I think it might actually reconcile your image of Chopper once again. It's a theory of mine that Vangjiel has heard, and I think you might appreciate. So
remember this thought, Youseff. Remember this thought. We'll come back to it.
Yeah. And then one thing actually about what you guys said about like Oda not leaving his house. Like all you can think about is this one guy that can stretch and build a whole narrative around that. When you like really read One Piece, you can kind of see Oda's genius not only through his own authentic creative means, but how he chooses to appropriate and utilize prior let's see, like pop culture, history, or literature to be the basis for his characters. Like, if I can kind of just fanboy for one weird reason, right? Like, this is pretty easy romance on, so like anybody that's wanting to watch One Piece is not a very big spoiler. But Sanji, for example, his epithet Blackfoot, right? And we all know how the Straw Hats have their own individual what is it, nationalities. Like, for example, Luffy's
yeah.
Brazilian, and now let's just skip straight to Sanji. I don't want to spoil it for anybody else, right? Sanji's French, and he's called Blackfoot. But if you look into history, Blackfoot has a bigger meaning, where it talks about like, during the French imperialization of Algeria, right? People that would leave France and go to Algeria as a step down from nobility would be monikered Blackfoots. And I just want that to sit there
That's
in your
next level.
mind,
That's
right?
next level
So
shit.
like how that kind of just
Yeah.
works with the whole overarching character. I'm not gonna say anymore because we're still kind of in like spoiler free
Wait,
Yeah.
damn,
area,
okay,
but
yeah.
like just that
Yeah.
one piece,
That's
no pun intended,
crazy.
right? That one little thing, right?
Yeah.
And how he stretches and
Yeah.
makes a whole character out of that.
It's
And
deep, bro. It goes
very
deep.
interesting.
That's
Like,
crazy.
yeah, one thing.
That
right?
just blew
Like,
my mind. I'd never heard that one before.
yeah.
That was
So, and there's more of these things that we can kind of talk through.
There's a one
throughout the
theory,
podcast.
and I wish he was here. I did invite them. My friend's brother, his little brother, is like, he's very similar to you guys. Like, he's caught up in the manga, and he has theories galore. One about, I'll get to it later when we're out of spoiler territory. Do we have anything else to say?
Let's just hit the ground running.
All right, we're gonna get
Let's
into
do
our
it.
favorite arcs. Since I wrote it down, I don't want to bore you guys, but I want to run through all of my favorite arcs. I know you guys probably can't do it all. Since I wrote it down, I have it off the top of my head. I'm gonna run through them, and then you guys can talk about whatever you want when it comes to your arcs. But just let me know what you think about this. I ranked all of my One Piece arcs as I watched them. I gave them a rating. I have 31 listed. Wano is not listed because it's ongoing.
Okay.
All right, but I'll go last to first. So last is Gaimon, the guy who was stuck in the treasure chest.
Yeah.
I wasn't a
Okay.
fan of that.
I
Okay,
remember.
fair.
Then Little Garden, the Giants, fantastic. The fights were lame. The Baroque work fights were not good in that arc.
Yeah.
Orange Town, which I believe is when the Buggy the Clown stuff. Longland is the Foxy Pirate stuff.
Yeah,
It's
trash.
fine. Syrup Village is Usopp's, which I loved the first time I watched it. With
Pretty good.
Yeah, with Captain Kuro. I loved the first time I watched it.
The
Second time I
Pussycat
watched it,
maneuver.
it was missing out. Yeah. Whiskey Peak. We're getting into these are pretty good. Now it's like none
Okay.
of these suck at this point.
We're in good tier. Yeah.
Whiskey Peak, Amazon Lily, 24 Return to Sabity. So that's right before Fishman Island.
Right.
Logtown, which was fantastic. A lot of that in the anime is like filler, I guess, but seeing Roger's execution, that was dope. Reverse Mountain is a very short arc. That's with Crocus. The running gag where he keeps like staring and he's like, "What? You never heard of a running gag before?" That's like pure comedy. The Baratier. These are arcs I gave like 7 out of 10. Romance Dawn at 20. Jaya at 19, 7.5. I love Jaya. Arlong Park, 18. Drum Island, 17. Fishman Island at 16. Punk Hazard at 15. Post-News Lobby at 14. Post-War Arc at 13. Zoe, 12. 11. Reverie. Now we're in the top 10. Number 10, Alabasta. Number 9, Water 7. Number 8, Skypiea. Number 7, Thriller Bark. Number 6, Ini's Lobby. Number 5, Impel Down. Number 4, Dress Rosa. Number 3, Sabity Archipelago. Number 2, Whole Cake Island. And number 1, Marineford. And honestly, it's not done yet. Wano's probably my favorite arc, but it's not done yet.
Okay.
Whole
Interesting
Cake
list,
2
interesting
stuck out
list.
to me. What was
Okay.
number 4? What was number 4?
Dress Rosa. And
Dress
that's the thing
Rosa
about One
4.
Piece. Everybody's going to have completely different lists.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have completely different.
Absolutely.
I've never met anybody with the same list as me.
Your number 1 is solidified, though. I think we can all agree.
Marineford.
Marineford is solidified up there. Top 2, that for sure.
It definitely top. Wait, Marineford, the arc or the whole saga? Like the
I would
whole.
say the whole saga, including
Oh,
including
yeah.
Impel Down.
If we're including Impel Down and all that shit, yeah,
One
absolutely.
of the best spans in anime is starting when Luffy finds out Ace has been
captured.
there all the way to the end. Marineford is fucking insane how good it
Nuts.
is.
Nuts.
It was
Just the
so
amount
easy
of
to do.
nuts things that happen and the
Yeah.
implications that they do have on the world of the story, just in terms of like the where was infiltrated, the type of shit that was done that has never happened before in the world of One Piece. It's like, whoa,
Impel Down,
so
yeah.
much historic shit is happening right now.
Yeah. It really feels like you're looking at history. Like this
Yeah,
is a
it does.
breathing, it's a breathing, living, breathing world.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a good point to bring up. It's like Oda rewards you when you commit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you
That's
could
good.
absolutely just like delve in and spoil yourself, like, and start at Impel Down where there's a lot of action, but without all that background context, these little ties, these connections, the
Like Bon
shifting
Clay,
alliances.
Dude, Bon
right?
Clay's whole shit means nothing if you didn't read Alabasta.
Absolutely
Right?
Exactly.
right. But like you get
one of my favorite
to
moments.
satisfy so many plot lines, and you get so many resolutions as well as a lot of heartbreaks, but then that's the whole beauty, the complexity, and the vast amount of emotion you'll feel through committing to this journey, right?
Yes.
Starting from Luffy's start, and he's just not knowing what it means to him to be a pirate, why he's leaving, so on and so forth. But then when you get there and it's like, he absolutely went into overdrive ever since beginning like Slabody, and then like getting to know about
Sabady's
Ace, so on.
fantastic.
It was just like that's
Sabady's so fucking good, dude.
Incredible.
Sabady's so good, and nothing
Incredible.
too crazy happens. Like it's not a climax, but it's so amazing. Just that whole I'm gonna get Ace back, and nobody a gripe I would have, which isn't a gripe anymore, because when you see the way, and we're in spoiler territory now.
Sick. Okay.
He goes through all this shit in One Piece, is so happy-go-lucky. My issue with Alabasta, it would be higher, but this war happens, shit goes down, people are making sacrifices, nobody dies. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
Pell explodes in midair and he comes back for no reason.
Hold up. I gotta say something about that.
Let's go.
There's a point
Let's
to
go.
it. There's a reason why. So Oda creatively was actually going to make Pell die.
Yeah.
However, he read the room, and it was around 9/11. So that's
shit.
why he
I think I've
chose
heard
to
this.
But
rescind
nobody
that
died.
change,
Nobody
right?
died. I saw nobody.
Agreed. And I think honestly that Pell dying and reading it now post 9/11, right? Like it would have made
He should have died.
it would have hit
Yeah.
home, absolutely.
Alabama-
However, I think it was then he was just trying to work with PR,
That's
and-
nuts
Yeah, and then
to think about that.
not just Alabasta, but
Wow.
throughout, it's like nobody dies besides backstories. But then he goes through all this shit. He saves, and here's a football reference for any Patriots fans out there. He he goes through all this shit with Ace. He saves him. Ace breaks free the cross and the fire when he finally comes out. It's like, yes, he saved Ace. It felt like I don't know if you guys are Patriots fans. Patriots are going undefeated against the Giants. They're losing. Brady throws the touchdown to Moss with like 2 minutes left, and it's like, that's it, we're gonna win. And it's the same feeling where it's like you have you right before the agony of defeat.
Yeah.
It's pure euphoria.
Right. And
Wow.
then
That's true.
That rugful, I agree.
He gets impaled, he gets donutted as the
Donutted.
the JoJo Bizarre Adventure term. They donut people. And then it's just the absolute, and you absolutely feel it with Luffy. How
you're destroyed.
yeah. Nonetheless, amazing arc. Just you guys keep. I'm sure we haven't. I could go all day. Please.
Some personal favorites. I just want to like fall back from a little bit, just so we can get some more context and then explore it in depth. I actually really liked Alabasta. I felt that like the villain story with Crocodile, the Baroque work, secret organization, him, pulling the strings behind the Alabasta Kingdom with the rain powder, like that. I found that all was beautiful, and then like the catharsis of all of that for me was the pornoglyph. Like I felt that like that solidified Alabasta for me, because it's like this arc right here is of great importance to the great story
Yes.
overall.
Yeah.
And then
And-
like another one that like follows it right up, Skypiea.
I love
Yes.
Skypiea. I love
Yes.
Skypiea
Skypiea.
was also great.
Starts
the whole
off slow.
story with the with
Definitely.
Nolan the liar.
Yeah, Jaya, dude. Jaya is also
Jaya
another
is
one that had so much
fantastic.
more long-term
The
implications.
introduction of Blackbeard right
Yes.
there.
Oh, bro.
The fight with
Who introduces
Bellamy,
a
and
villain
then
like that?
the lesson learned from Shanks, right? Like going back to his own village where it was like, hey, Zoro, don't fight, right?
Yeah.
Because this is not worth our dreams right now. This is, you know, this is not it. It's the exact same parallel. And again, Oda is a king with these parallels. You can draw so much, theories, because he lays the tracks for you and says like, hey, this is just like this, very similar to Naruto, where it's like, you know, the three people like kind of represent the team prior to them and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Right, like the Sani and the new Sani and so on and so forth. Right,
Mhm.
but like Jaya is such a great arc, and Skypiea in its totality. I don't understand why a lot of people shit on it, because I think in the grander scheme of things, it means so much
Yeah.
more to the
Yeah.
to the.
I think it's because
the
it starts
grander
off
scheme.
slow. It starts off a little slow, you know? Like I just remember that's where I stopped the first time I was watching One Piece. It's just like this is taking forever to get into it. The ordeals and whatnot. I'm like, these guys are clowns. These are lackeys. Like this doesn't matter. If I just hung in 10 more episodes and saw Eneru and all that shit, which is another crazy thing. That if that dude showed up on the Marineford battlefield, he'd be wiping people. But Luffy is just his kryptonite, you know, because he's made of rubber.
Yeah.
So it's like they're introducing this really powerful villain that the main character just so happens can hang with.
Right.
Is that coincidence? Oh, I see, because I would argue it's destiny.
It's interesting that, you know, he's fighting a character that's calling himself God, and then it's almost like divine intervention that Luffy's the one he fights. It's the perfect, you know,
Yeah.
foil to him.
Monkey
that name of the
D.
D, you know,
Luffy.
That's right.
and destined to be the what is it, the antonym or the enemy of the gods, right?
Right. Oh, there you go.
And you mentioned Jaya.
Poetic.
I just want to say this real quick question. More satisfying punch when he punches Bellamy or when he punches the Celestial Dragon?
Nah,
in
man, that's
Savage
Celestial
Land.
Dragon. He
Yeah,
punched
I
him back to the manga, man. Like it was black and white.
Pushing through the panel.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I love the Bellamy punch
No,
though.
that Bellamy
'cause
one
it's
was
like
heavy.
it's not like, oh, you sent me flying across the island. It's like he just stopped him in his tracks and his
You're right here.
print was on his cheek. It's
Dude,
just
there was a moment I
crazy.
thought like he killed him. I was like, whoa, did they just kill a character? Like all of a
So
sudden.
satisfying
That's-
after
yeah.
all the after everything you guys just mentioned.
I do like Alabasta too. We're kind of talking about it a lot. That was, again, I mentioned when I was early on reading it in Shonen Jump, that's kind of where I picked it up. And I think it was the first time where I really felt an overwhelming force that they couldn't beat. Right. And I was like, how are they going to end up beating him? Luffy dies, right? Like he gets stabbed in the heart and just left in the
Left for
dirt
dead in the
and has to
desert.
get saved, right? And not only just dies, and then also gets beaten like a couple times. And you think of Usopp getting cracked in the face with the 4-ton bat, and you're like, how is this guy with a slingshot going to survive? How are they ever going to beat these people? And that was a really cool character moment for Usopp too, which I think I like that arc for, just like when he stood up and said, no, my captain's going to be the king and shit. I'm like, yo, let's go. And just the familial ties that's another thing in the story is later on when each character kind of has that moment where they say, no, my captain's going to be the king. That is, I really cherish the arcs that have those points. But so Alabasta, I think, I don't know if it's number one, but it's absolutely one of my favorites.
It's up there. It's top 5 for me, along with Skypiea, and then immediately to follow that, Water 7.
Dude, I fucking love Water 7.
For me, Water 7 has so many gems of the history of the ship, of the sea train that they were building.
Yep.
The
genuine surprises, like CP9 Carpenter switch. I was not expecting that.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting that shit
out of the book, right? Especially like the whole story with Robin, how she got dragged into it as well. With her previous history, and with Tom, and with the Oro Jackson. Oh man, it was just the storyline there was really good.
When you say Water 7,
Frankie.
When you say Water 7, you talking about Water 7? Or you talking about Water 7 and Enies Lobby? Are we combining those, or are we talking about them as two separate entities?
I think we can talk about them as two separate entities.
Yeah. I'm specifically talking Water 7, like just in this past couple minutes.
All right.
For me,
because
I
like
see it as
it's
a
built off
saga.
of Venice, you know.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
true.
which
Yeah,
is cool.
exactly. For me, like as a saga, Water 7 in its totality with Enies Lobby and post Enies Lobby,
Mhm.
I think that's when the crew really became a crew.
Yeah.
Everybody fell in line into their position,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It was needed. I loved seeing Usopp overcome his self-doubt through having to challenge Luffy, but then also Vice Captain Zoro establishing that this is not a mere child's game. You know,
Yeah.
we will accept him for his return, but only upon an apology, right?
Right.
The
Mhm.
navigator was needed. We got ourselves a shipwright, you know, and one of the
Yes.
best shipwrights at that. We established ourselves as enemies against the world government, literally around headquarters, right? Like
Mhm.
at Enies Lobby, you tell them shoot that flag, right? But I
Yep.
think that's when the Straw Hats got to really know through all the trials and tribulations that now we are the Straw Hats.
This is
And
our crew.
upon that new like ship of like, hey, and again, this is the only series to ever make me cry for an inanimate object, bro. Like the Mary, come on, man. Like
Oh my
I never
God,
thought I'd
yeah,
quote,
same.
right?
It's pretty
But-
crazy to think about.
Same.
Yeah, that strikes a
but
chord.
that transition from the Mary, which we kind of like happy-go-lucky, all the fun memories, into
Yeah.
the Sunny with the Atom Wood, and like and everybody kind of establishing themselves, like kind of with the girls Nami and Robin, they kind of go through like two-factor authentication. So it's like again, like we went through like with Nami between Barati
Oh, that's
like
true. Yeah,
on
yeah,
Clark,
yeah.
and like we're doing the same thing with Robin from like Alabasta to and he's lobbying. It's like no, now we are the established Straw Hats, and leaving this, we know what we're going to be doing. We know ourselves, and it was great to see that growth come from each person, and and that arc, because it really pushed them and challenged them to become the best that they could be. Like those finishing moves.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. Well,
Amazing.
it's one of the rare times in the story as well where physically, like in terms of physical strength, where they had that little ranking system, that was also clearly defined. So that feeds into it as well. The strength levels of the characters and of the crew is this is the order of what it is. And Frankie is his story. We keep talking about things related to the overall story and just, you know, the relations that people have. And even the fact that, you know, his parents just left him somewhere and he got hit by a train. He's a half cyborg. His story is really interesting, and the way his character went in that early Water 7 and how all the reveals is really cool, even though I don't love his character. Like, I think he's all right, he's fine, he's cool, he's got his gimmicks, but
Yeah.
I mostly just chalk him up to gimmicks. But the story that he provides regardless of that is pretty immense and pretty interesting.
Yeah, because with his arrival, you know, comes context onto like what, you know, like the discrimination that the fishmen face with Tom.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
he brings
that's
that
true.
context, and then he brings the context of, oh, you know, this not only is he a fishman, but he built the ship of the previous pirate king. You know, so it's like, oh, he's literally an enemy of the world government.
And the
That's
corruption
why
of the
we
world
see
government.
The corruption in the world government, exactly, which they later tackle. Not only like is that evident through like CP9, but like they even hooked them up with devil fruits, which I found was like crazy cool, because devil fruits are like what make the One Piece world so special.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and like it was good that we got some more information with that. And they provided, oh man, when Lucy, like their feats in terms of strength, because we're amplified like through the devil fruits, all of the Straw Hats, and this goes back to the growth that you mentioned earlier, Youssef. They had to reach new heights because like they're facing the strongest people that they've ever encountered.
Yeah,
And they
at the
so
risk
happen
of
to be,
everything.
like, government like assassins.
Like, think of Chopper, you know, as much as you joke about him, he went into that Monster Point shit at the risk of his life, his sanity, you know, and just because it's like, I'm cornered there, I have no options left.
Yeah, he
Yep, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, it like we mentioned, it's really the first time, it's sort of referenced before, it's the first time where it's like, oh, the world government isn't just a typical government where, oh, they want it's about the greater good, and pirates generally are evil and the Marines are generally have the citizens' best interest. It's like, oh no, this is totally corrupt, and they have their own selfish, and something is at play here. Not only with the, you know, showing up to execute Tom and whatnot, but obviously Robin's backstory, which is probably top 5 backstory for me. just
Facts.
the book burnings in Professor Clover, which is like we're talking about foreshadowing. Clover just talking about the ancient civilization that we have yet to really see, and they're just like he's just like kill him over the phone. That's just absolutely insane. Also, another great thing about Water 7, not to get too off track, is just like the side characters are it's one of the better side characters. You got the Frankie family. You have what was her name? Kuroko, the she's like a mermaid, like the old lady.
Tom's gal.
Yeah, you have
the
everybody from
fucking
Ohara.
Polly, the carpenter guy with the little slasher rope things. He's dope.
The mayor. And one of my favorite scenes in One Piece. One of my favorite scenes in One Piece is when he repairs the Mary and he's walking away and Mary's just like, thank you. Yeah. He's like, what the fuck? It's just really well done. Just really well done.
What are some other favorites?
Favorite arcs?
Yeah. We've said a couple. I like Impel Down, and we talked about the whole saga, but Impel Down itself as an arc, I thought was pretty
the funniest. A Thriller Bark's really funny, but Impel Down's really low key funny. Like it's a serious ass jail, but the warden and the vice warden, the vice warden that just wants terrible things to happen to the warden so that he can become warden.
Right.
Very funny.
And like it actually was gonna play into the story. Like he was like, guys, I would have just let you go. Like I wanted him to get dethroned, but they just get into a fight actually. And all the levels of hell are cool. Obviously, you got the Dante's Inferno comparison. You have old characters coming back in. You see Jinbei. You see all of this shit start to happen that has its ramifications later when Blackbeard shows up, when people get freed. Like Magellan gets just fucked up when they bust Shiryu out of the cell. It's like, oh shit, this is something real. This is something serious. Big concern.
And then Blackbeard Luffy stare down.
Love that.
That was
iconic scene.
Absolutely iconic.
I think that's a great segue to what maybe you said, Gabe, about like the like justice and how it's carried out through the Navy or the world government. I like how Oda plays with spectrum and it's not black and white. The Navy's not good and piratehood is not bad. As an example with the Straw Hats, like Luffy's literally the idea of freedom incarnate, and he's in a sense helping people realize their own internal and as well as political freedoms, their own rights as he goes through each arc or each island, right? And so I think a great foil for that, another great prolific pirate that kind of is the other end of the coin is somebody that made a name for himself, Blackbeard, yet another D that is in a sense that very stereotypical idea of a pirate that many people think it's like, hey, how could a pirate story be so great? Like the idea of like, that's when you think of like, it's like, hey, One Piece is about pirates. Right. It's not really your very orthodox or traditional idea of what a pirate is. However, like Oda presents Blackbeard as that stereotype, as that character for you to see, as that direct antonym to Luffy in a sense, right? Just like he does complexity throughout the Navy and world government in a sense with Isho and his blind sense of justice as opposed to like absolute justice with the Kainu, right? And
you get Garp in there and his entire story.
Like, especially recognizing Sword. I know that's not like no spoilers, like in the manga. However, that small little faction and Aokiji leaving. Why is he leaving? It's like these things. It's like, hey, it's very similar to that Game of Thrones where it's like, hey, it's neither good or bad in these black and white contexts. However, it's a very interesting and complex medley in between where it's like there are these shifting alliances as well as how do I say nuances in between each side that you get to appreciate. And it's like, hey, all the people that we were once up against and not of the greatest terms in Impel Down have become our allies to try to go up against in Marineford.
That was like amazing too. That's one of my favorite parts. Crocodile, the guy who impales him in the desert, leaves him for dead, is now his ally. And it's like, oh, what's
on the battlefield too,
and what's his secret? And it's like Ivankov has this secret about Crocodile, and it's like
I forgot about that.
Ivankov can like pick on him and shit, and it's like this guy was a leader, like a mafia leader,
a crime boss, like he ran a syndicate.
This dude's like the biggest deal in One Piece.
And he's just bitching on him.
Yeah,
Oh my god, I do love, and just not only it's the Navy and the pirates, every faction is questionable. The revolutionaries, the individual
Yes.
kingdoms, each faction has its positives and negatives to it that you really have to sit and think, do I agree with them or not? Do I think they were right here? And then in each of those factions are the characters that highlight each of those, you know, personalities that could exist. And it's just so rich. There's so much shit for you to indulge in.
I
I
think
think
that's
that's
one
I
very
think a
good
good
point.
thing. Sorry to interrupt you, Sip. I think a good thing to add to this depth of duality right here is a perfect example is Doflamingo.
Yes,
The
yes.
boy,
Just
the
be
boy.
just
Took the
because
words
of
out my
like
mouth.
because of his lineage as well as his relationship to his brother, right? Like they literally both underwent the same exact circumstances, and like their growth coming out of it based on like what not only what they went through but who they wanted to be.
Right.
That depth of duality, kind of similar to Luffy's and Blackbeard's, on how like their antithesis.
Yes.
When you have one who literally hates everyone and thinks that you know he's God, brings his own justice and manipulates people, and you know through secret organizations, and his brother is the total opposite. You know, fighting for justice, protecting people, saving orphans. You know,
Yeah.
That's why Dressrosa rules. That's why Dressrosa rules, people.
Dressrosa's dope.
Yes.
Especially upon and when you can read it and watch it all at once, it's really freaking it's really good.
Doflamingo,
Definitely one of the longer ones. However, like that moral philosophy and that shift in nature versus nurture to see, as like Vangjiel kind of put it, between the brothers and like your empathy towards Doflamingo's backstory, that complexity of character. You know, it's not just like, oh, you're a shitty, you know, like piece of shit or whatever it
my
may be.
favorite
Like,
One
you know,
Piece villain.
like you
it's a
understand.
true
I
villain
think he's the
origin,
best
you know?
villain in One Piece.
Yeah, he's pretty. Yeah, that one scene where he's saying that even the empathy part where I think he hangs up the phone and he's just sitting there like with his head in his hand, he's sweating really hard. And I don't remember what happened to him at the moment, but that was a moment I remember being like, oh,
and he
this
cares
guy's
about his
not just-
people. He cares about his comrades. Those are his bros for life. Like the people who are with him. Like he's not just like, oh, you're, which is why Hody Jones is probably the worst villain. Where at the end of Fishman Island, he's just like, he doesn't care what happens to anybody. I'm like, what's your end game? And your reason for being pissed off isn't like, it's just, that's another story. We don't need to spend too much time on the negatives. Dressrosa is fantastic. One of the few times I've cried, I'm not afraid to admit it, a few times I've cried is, Corazon, Doflamingo's brother, while Law is sleeping and he's crying about like Law's terminal. And Law's backstory is, I think, the best backstory overall for me, just because of the weight and everything, is the Wano backstory of Odin and everything. But the most tragic backstory, and maybe my second favorite backstory, is Law's backstory in Dressrosa.
Pretty tragic. Yeah, this is pretty damn bad.
That's as bad as it gets, just like his family dying. And
Brooks is up there. Brooks is
definitely up there.
His shit is crazy, dude. Oh my god, that was one that came alive for me in the anime too, where it was the scene where they're all playing the instruments and sing the song as his crewmates just die, and then in the anime you actually see him like cry more and more as each body drops. It's like, oh shit, that's intense.
That's kind of a great point you bring up, because I think that's one thing that I really appreciate Oda doing. He kind of covertly delivers a message, just like what we said about with Corazon and Law, like Law being in the chest, right? Right before Corazon used the in a sense his room, you know, like the calm. That's what it was, right? And it's like for him to quiet down just so he can get away from Doflamingo after he gets himself shot, right? And then when you recognize Law is crying silently, however, as he gets away, and when you finally hear that wail of Law, you know that Corazon has died. And like as like, you know, like you hear less and less voices on that ship, you know, Brook's ship. And it's like each one, it's like just now like what is it, a quartet, and it goes down to a duet, and it's just him, and it's like, man, that just hits you in the feels, you know. Very well delivered, and he knows how to capitalize on those moments.
What are your guys, everybody, who are your like, what are some moments that really hit you in the feels? Like One Piece definitely, they have, One Piece is more moments, and like you can cut their I'll call them feels moments in like half, and it's still more than any other show. Like I feel like every backstory, it's like, this is a new way you're hitting me in my soul. What are some that come to mind for you guys?
Or a throwback to I forgot her town, but Nami's arc with Arlong when she's stabbing her arm and
Yes.
puts the hat on her head.
And her
That's
mom's
definitely-
backstory too.
Mom's backstory.
That
Yeah,
was
that has a
brutal.
lot of moments. That one's definitely, those are some feels.
Yeah.
The whole why she loves oranges, bro. We finally understand
Yo, yeah.
after she goes through that whole, arc of realizing that it's okay for her to move on with her life. She doesn't have to be like imprisoned, in a room building maps forever. One of my top moments, I want to say the O'Hara backstory.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole scenes with the Buster call and the whole idea of censorship behind it and how Robin has become the devil child.
Yeah.
I thought that really hit me hard.
And the image of her just sitting on the ship, they zoom out and her island has just been obliterated and she's crying alone on a ship. A 7-year-old girl or whatever, however, just crazy. Chopper, all that shit. When the cherry
Chopper
blossoms
Alarge.
finally
The
bloom, I feel like we haven't
yes,
talked.
yeah,
Drum is
Island.
like the story of Rudolph, because we're around the holidays. I just think it's
Perfect.
stupid where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna bully this kid. Oh wait, he's useful to us. We're gonna stop bullying him. Like Santa
Right.
could have said, when I'm like a dad, I'm gonna show my kids around the holidays. I'm showing my kids the story of Chopper. I'm showing them the
Chopper,
backstory.
yes.
I'm
Blue
showing them
nose,
Drum
not red
Island.
nose.
The way
Yeah.
that ends, that the cherry blossoms and he finds people who accept him for who he is. It's beautiful.
A different type of feels. The Mihawk reveal, that was like a chills. Like when he showed up at Baratier, that was pretty sudden. I was like, oh
was cool,
shit,
yeah.
we got a sudden badass, like
Yeah.
sudden god tier.
Or when Shanks pulls up on Mihawk and you think they're gonna have a fight and they just drink instead and like
It's like, hey, what's up, buddy? Yeah.
The range of emotion that it just brings out of you is so complex and like it hits on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like
And
some of the greater moments, like Luffy punching the Celestial Dragon.
Yes.
Luffy finally like taking down Rob Lucci.
Yeah.
Like all of these moments, Shanks pulling up and like in reverie. Like all of them are hit in their own unique ways.
Oh, true.
Just because of the context that's provided leading up to that moment.
Yeah.
I think there's like, in a sense, two ways that we kind of get our feels hit. In a sense, there's like the trauma that we kind of live through with each character. Like I really like Drum Island, where you kind of get to see how Chopper accepts himself not as a monster, but in a sense as a human, with being a kind of a human fruit, right? Eating that in a sense, but like really understanding and recognizing that he is worth something and he is wanted to be part of the Straw Hats, but then there's also those great hitting moments, like as you said, the introductions, but like one thing that really stands to me is the nothing happened moment, right? Where it's like that shows like, it's not only, it wasn't just a Zoro moment, it was also a Sanji moment for me, right? Where it was like, no, they have this like brother complex where they're shitting on each other, right? But like in a sense there's an unspoken like trust, maybe not love, but trust at least, like
respect.
the left and right wings of the king himself, right?
Yes.
And for that to happen, where it's like, no, you're not going to sacrifice yourself, I am going to. And then he's like, that's not happening, I'm going to sacrifice myself, right? Like, in my whole ambition to this whole promise, to be the best swordsman of the world,
to his dead best friend, by the way, like that he's willing to give up
for his captain, because if I can't protect my own captain's ambition, mine is worth nothing. The philosophies behind that, I think that's one of the great things that One Piece delivers is moral standpoints, right? It's not just a story, but it satisfies true justice as we see it. And I think like the Straw Hats following Luffy set a great example for that. That's what it is. It's a moral compass to kind of almost follow. It's not just a story for laughs or action. It's a mystery and an adventure, if anything. However,
that's true.
There's still something more that it delivers, other than just this narrative that kind of lets us stick through. And one of those things for me is that that moral compass. It puts things into check. Like, this is the correct thing to do. This is what a upright character with upstand with, or like sustain.
Characters are so well realized and actualized in the story, and I think it's a testament to the world of the story itself, because it's in this wild world where anything could fucking happen, like in terms of someone could be a jacket versus, you know, the Navy could come and destroy your town for no reason, right? Like you have this enormous spectrum of things that can happen, and you really have to kind of look inward to yourself to be like, how am I going to define my role in this world? Because it's won't give me anything, and it could throw me anything at any moment. So I need to really have some type of constitution. And most of the straw, not most of them, all of the Straw Hat characters and most of the side characters, I think, have that internal reflection they've done based on, Youseff, you mentioned it, the trauma they've been through, and that we get to see it as well.
Mm.
And I think an interesting perspective is also from for the readers, like as they get introduced, the first thing like we're sort of introduced into like about the One Piece world are the creations of the devil fruits, right? And as we've seen with the story, like they can literally be anything, you know, like they could be elemental,
a sword,
it could be,
it could be laundry,
exactly. like the three kinds of devil fruits that we've come to know, you know, the Logia, the Paramecia, and the zones,
and the subsets within those, in a sense.
Exactly. Right. That provides for like such complexity and such freestyle. You know, also, and then we reach moments where like the only thing we know about this world are that, like, you know, only one devil fruit per user, you know, and then all of that comes shattering down when we have the antithesis of the story, Blackbeard, you know, presenting what we know as is impossible. The one rule that One Piece established, he breaks in open confidence and sort of becomes like this true evil villain.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Youseff, you bring up nothing happened at all, that moment, and you know, I had Thriller Bark like top 6. I have it above arcs like Alabasta, arcs like Skypiea, because of partly it was really enjoyable. I watched it all in one night on One Piece. Like I started at like 10 p.m. and ended at like 5 a.m. So it's funny because I watched it in one night and it really takes place in one night, the arc itself. Those final episodes when Kuma shows up and everything just puts it on a whole nother level. Just the importance of it, Kuma showing up, the Zoro moment, Brooke seeing Brooke get a payoff, and referencing Big Mom with, oh, my mom's a big deal. Lola with the Visa card, my mom's a big deal in the new world. It's like, oh shit. That just capped it off, Thriller Bark for me. Tyler, earlier I mentioned I said I had Whole Cake Island at number 2 on my list, and you had summary. I wasn't sure what your reaction was. But you did have a reaction to it. What's up with Whole Cake Island with you?
It wasn't like, you know, tainted with positive or negative. It was more like, I don't know if I hear people if it's their first or second arc too often. So I was interested. Really? I was like, oh, so I'm actually more curious as to why it was such a great arc for you.
Yeah, so I was watching it. Everybody was hyping it up. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, this is good, but I was really excited for Big Mom, and she's just a big oaf the whole time, you know, like she's having her hug. The entire arc, she's a letdown. I'm sorry, she just is. The Katakuri fight starts, it's really good. I'm still like, but the Katakuri, especially when they both use Conqueror's Haki at the same time, that shit was sick. The fight was great. Sanji's backstory was really good and everything. It's just the final episodes and the finale where you don't really know what happens to Jinbei. You don't know what happens to the Vin Smoke family, and we're talking about emotional moments, putting with the kissing Sanji and pulling away, like the erasing his memory, that shit, romance never gets me really. But when romance in One Piece for some reason really gets me, with there's that, and then there's Mr. Pink in Dressrosa.
Oh, that's right.
That gets everybody out
to the choir, brother.
Yeah, it's man. He's so good at he knows how to reach anybody. Like he knows how to reach not just me, but like the general public. So yeah, that's really why, if you can reach my soul, there's just extra points with me. So yeah,
unintended, because Big Mom has the soul fruit, and we're talking about
and then Big Mom, her backstory was pretty good too. It's like she has a tragic backstory.
Mother Caramel.
You kind of see,
which might come back and have some implications with Elbaf if that happens, if that's speculation. So, you know, there are seeds there too.
Yeah, and just some of the fights and just seeing how strong a Yonko crew is, where it's like
Yeah.
you can go, it's kind of like a really good NBA roster where it's like we're 10 men down the roster and you still have like really good players. Like Big Mom, you go all the way down. You got Mondor, the clown looking dude, and his power is like sneaky OP where he
His
just
book
puts you
shit.
into
Yeah,
his
the
own world.
prison
nuts.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pocket
one
dimensions,
thing I
basically.
That's my
will say
thing. Yeah.
about, the Whole Cake Island, for me, loved Sanji's backstory, and as well as like delving more into his character and his kind of obsession with women. Like, one thing we talked about, like and I think I really want to hit on point with this, with like the whole change between Chopper pre and post time skip, just like with Sanji's perversion. And again, of course, the 2 years away at Ivan's Island did not help. I gotta say it, right?
Not quite paradise.
It was getting to be too much of a gag, right? And that was, I missed 007 Mr. Prince Sanji, right? And but then when you recognize, like, this man has only grew up like with men around his life, and women have been the only saving grace for him, right? Where it's like his brother and his dad
mom,
literally
His
revolted him,
sister.
literally, like, as in like bullied him and traumatized him. His dad disowned him, right? And then he goes on to the only one male that really kind of appreciated him was Zeph, Redfoot himself, where he sacrificed his own foot for Sanji to have food because of that same, like, the same dream, right? And I really love that sense of like second fathers. That's a very like important factor in One Piece. You never really follow the will of your biological father, but of your chosen father, in a sense. Like Luffy and Shanks, Ace and Whitebeard, Sabo and Dragon, right? It kind of keeps going. You never kind of follow your biological father, and it's like your chosen will. But going back to it, right? And then you only see that it's just Reiju and Sora, right? Like his mom and sister that really kind of did things for him and like looked out for his best interest. You get to finally understand the complexity. And I don't want to spoil anything, Gabe, but like when you get to where we're at in Wano, I think Whole Cake is only an opening to the complexity of Sanji's character. And then when you get to where we're at, you really fully understand and get to kind of a lot of plot point finishers to fully summarize this very complex and layered person we know as Sanji, right? But one thing that I really loved was the mirroring. So
great point, Youseff.
the mirror world, where Luffy fights literally somebody that looks like him or his better. The same shaggy hair, similar fruits, similar, hockey styles, right? Where he actually has to improve to really adopt future sense from Katakuri, right? And it's like, hey, this is you fighting you. And Luffy took that beating, man. I mean, 12 hours and counting, and he was still fighting. And then to see, for me personally, I don't see Katakuri as a villain as much as I see him as an antagonist.
For sure. And there's a lot of people in One Piece like that.
Right?
There's a lot of people. Magellan really wasn't a bad dude,
He was doing his job, man. He's on payroll, like he has to get shit done, right? So but like
he's getting government check. He's got to do his job.
And there were some really bad dudes. There are some bad dudes locked up and impelled down, like the guys who end up joining up with.
The worst ones are free.
Yes. And so really seeing that parallel between Luffy and Katakuri, it was very interesting. And then almost like Katakuri yielding to like Luffy, was like, hey, I respect where you're coming from, right? And then there's respect given back to when he falls back on his back himself. Luffy takes off the second hat, the one that he had for the tea party, and puts it over his mouth, where a very big sore spot, like, because he's in a sense the real father or the real parent
leader
of his family.
Of the Whole Cake.
Her mom, their mom, the big mom, just very similar to Caramel, is just Mother Caramel is exploiting the children around her for her own
benefit.
Exactly.
Selling them to the Navy.
Exactly, and so that's where I ended up. I think Whole Cake Island for me has grown over time to like kind of grow in my ranks. For me, it's Enies Lobby, Sabaody, Let's see. Then
Interesting.
we have, of course, Marineford is of course up there. I think nobody, like brings that down. Or it has to be in your top 5. But then Dressrosa, Whole Cake, and lastly, it's not finished, but Wano Kuni is a gem.
Yeah.
It's fucking beautiful, dude. And it's just visually beautiful. The backstories are beautiful. And we keep talking about things getting tied into the future. That's probably, and tied into a grander story, probably is not more serious than in Wano, with all of the backstory and all of the ancient history shit that you're getting. It's about to have implications that are going to explode by the end of what's already an explosion, which is the war going on.
Mm. Hey fellas, we took a quick break there. We've realized here that we could talk about One Piece for probably a whole week straight. It's not even exaggeration. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that I'm holding back where I'm like, yeah, I could bring this up, but that's going to be another 30-minute tangent that we're going to go down, another rabbit hole we're going to go down. So let me hold it. I just think this might be a regular thing. I at least will call this part 1 of probably a 2 or 3 part One Piece special. They won't be on episode 1000 anymore, but we're going to keep talking about One Piece down the line. This has been fantastic. We're going to cap it off here. I'm going to ask everybody and I'll answer it myself. Who's your favorite Straw Hat and who's your least favorite Straw Hat? And tell me why. We could start with Youseff up top because you're the first in the Zoom here.
Let's see. I think kind of have to kick Luffy out of this the roster, because of course everybody loves Luffy. I think what he stands for, he's really not only the Straw Hats captain, but our captain in a sense, right? But
he's the spokesman of the story.
He is a guy you root for.
Absolutely, yeah. And so for me, for a long time, and I think V knows this, I've been a Zoro stan for a while. I really just appreciate his discipline, his sacrifice to the ambition, and how far he's willing to go for his friends, as well as his moral compass. Yeah, he might be brash, and he, not maybe the kindest person. However, the people that matter, like the little girl, who brought him the onigiri, which, like in the first couple episodes, and he told her to get, like he in a sense dissed her to just keep her safe away from Helmeppo at that, first couple episodes. But then asked Luffy, hey, bring me that dirt-filled onigiri and let me eat it so she can feel good, and I'm also hungry, right? I think he's always going to be somebody great in my a perspective. However, over the span of Wano and kind of growing with the story and seeing where the manga is, I've really grown to appreciate Sanji. I did not like the gags post time skip, and it was getting to be a bit much. I really, like I said, appreciate it. Yeah, I really did appreciate the complexity even before, but now it's just new depths for Sanji, and that's something there for me that I always seem to love. So that brotherhood, in a sense, between them is growing too, and that's something I'm looking forward to see. So and as a honorary Straw Hat, but not somebody that's completely always there, Law is somebody that I think is highly underappreciated. I know he doesn't like it when he gets lumped up with him, but like he even participates in the gag sometimes unwillingly, and it's like he's part of the crew so far. So that's what it is for me. A Zoro stan, however, Sanji has been growing in my favor a lot more, especially throughout Wano.
Yeah, he you mentioned Law. I think he gets some flack because it's kind of like an artist that gets too popular. Like,
I see.
I think there's Law merch and shit, and everybody loves Law, and he's got fangirls and everything. And I think when you have that kind of popularity, people will turn against you.
Yeah, he was a cooler hipster pick.
Right. Yeah. We'll come back around for your least favorite. So Tyler, you wanna tell us who your favorite Straw Hat is?
Yeah, I do resonate a lot with what you said about Sanji, and especially I love that we've characters that we're still learning new things about, and that there's layers to the backstory, right? So it's like you get deep history and also recent history, and they all kind of feed into each other. I think that's really cool, and I think Sanji's a testament to that. maybe now with the stuff that's going on in Wano that'll happen with Zoro too, it's probably coming up. But I think Sanji's up there for me for that. I love Robin's backstory and just the notion of being an assassin that was hiding from government for a long time. I think that's really sick. And her fighting style is also interesting. It's like holds and clutches and submission moves. Like we haven't really, this will be another tangent we'll have to say, but just power systems and like the power sets within the verse and how they're written and how they're used. I think that's really cool. It's a way that someone who doesn't have a lot of, attack potency per se can hurt you because she can like break your neck with her multiple hands. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I'd say probably Sanji and Robin are my favorite Straw Hats.
I respect it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Because Robin's like I feel like a very important piece of like her character is her potential for the future. Because she not only does she provide context to like the true story of the world of the Void Century, but she also provides the future for Luffy and for the crew and achieving their goals and becoming the Pirate King. So for me, like my two favorite, I love Robin because of all that the trauma that she went through, that she overaccomplished, what she brings to the table, not only in intelligence but archaeology, and literally being the key to the One Piece. Her growth, I have a lot of appreciation for. And my second, I'm agree with you 100%. My man Sanji,
he's the boy.
Not only is he King Simp, but like, I have a lot of respect for his vows. Youssef, you talked about discipline earlier, but Sanji literally has rules that he must live by and abide. He's being a chef. He will never fight with his hands. That's why my man kicks. And all his love for women, he will never lay hands on a woman. And I think that is so critical for his, for his character and his growth.
I think also like not let anybody starve in his presence, right? Either good or bad.
I fuck with that.
Yeah.
Real principles.
That moment in Whole Cake was like really hit home, when Luffy is literally on the brink of starvation in enemy territory, and they have that conversation where he tells Sanji that, he literally cannot become the Pirate King without his help.
Yeah.
Because not only is he a friend, like he is crucial to like Luffy's success.
Yeah.
That's really good. But one of my least favorite Straw Hats, and I mean, I don't want to like, this is by no means is a disrespect, because he may be like the least favorite of the Straw Hats, but he's still like within my top 100 all-time anime characters. But Brook, I think that like his story involvement, like it's so big with his afro, which is like crazy to his personality. His story with Laboon is really fitting.
Love that.
But I feel like he's lacking something more than that.
All right, so I didn't go. You guys all said Sanji. I think Sanji's by far the most well-written Straw Hat. He got two whole backstories, where Zoro I think they're saving something big for him, but at least in the anime, he has that, I'd say, the weakest Straw Hat backstory. But I still love Zoro because I don't know, he's a badass, and I love, like, I don't know if you realize this, until recently in Wano, he took a hit from Scratchman Apu, but he hadn't been really touched. Nobody could even hang with him. He took out Hody Jones. He took out the leader of the Fishmen underwater.
Yeah, like first encounter.
He took out the final boss underwater one
in
shot.
His element. In his element.
Yeah, that was nuts.
He what's his face never laid a scratch on him in Dressrosa, Pika.
Yeah.
And every time you see Zoro, he just claps whoever. He has the amazing animation moment with Killer from Kids.
Oh yeah.
From the Kid Hires. Zoro's great. Brook, I have to disagree. Brook's one of my favorites. He's very funny. His backstory is great. And he's very useful on the battlefield, and he's clutch, dude. He stood up.
He held it down. He
stood up to Big Mom and Whole Cake.
He's clutch.
When he had no chance. When he went and got the comic whip thing, like that was impressive.
No, most definitely.
Think of whoever.
Yeah.
Robin, I also agree. I thought I was gonna be different when I said Robin, but I'm glad you said her too. Just another person who's really useful. Seems like a really normal person to a point. Like I feel like she would be a real like she kind of acts like a real person in real life. And then obviously great backstory. And some of the most interesting parts of One Piece is when the poneglyphs are involved, and obviously she's key to that. But I'll let you continue with why you don't like Brooke, or I'm just kidding. Why is your least favorite Straw Hat?
Just if you compare him to the others, right? Like he can't even touch the top three, like the strongest three. He can't touch. I feel like Nami has a lot more there, with her whole backstory, and her dream in general, I feel like is much like bigger and on a grander scale than Brooks in terms of like end game. Because she wants to chart the whole world. I feel like Usopp's story is, much more intriguing. Well, to me personally, just because of like how, abstract his theory, like his goal is, to be a brave warrior of the sea. It's sort of how to be like a man. It's a guide for him, in exploring his own morality and his own character. Frankie, I have so much love for him. The carpenter, he's literally like, without him, they would not be going as far.
Yeah.
And who else am I missing? Chopper. I feel like he serves like a better role because he's a medic. Like he's more integral to like the ship. But like I feel like Brook is there for entertainment. He's there for context, and like he brings a lot. Like his most interesting part is
he's there for some clean shit, like his like moves when he stabs people, and he just walks by him and then puts the shit back in the sheet. That's some pretty clean shit.
Yeah, I agree. I think to interject here, I think what like Vangjiel is trying to say is I think he has an overall significance to the ship because in a sense, like Brook will be the last Straw Hat living in a sense, right? He's gonna outlive
kind of depressing too.
Yeah, he's the one that's gonna reverberate and keep them alive in a sense because you don't die when you're a corpse. You die when people forget you. From Dr. Haley Liuk himself, However,
yes,
I think he has grander what is it context or significance to the ship itself where he's to come back to Laboon means you've already completed your whole
journey,
mission or journey, right? He, in a sense, is a very imperative to the whole dynamic and story that is the Straw Hats. But what I think Vangjiel's saying is he's not as individually interesting as the rest are. He is still an interesting character, but as an individual, he may not shine as much in comparison to the rest of them. And for me, to be honest, I think I agree. I personally think every other Straw Hat has a story that outshines him. It's still a very tragic one that is very important, and I still like it. But
likewise,
in a ranking of liking, Brook does stay last.
Yeah,
and that's not to downplay any of his boss plays during Whole Cake because he was the MVP.
Yeah.
Slept with Big Mom, got the rubbings, broke the caramel, picture. Like he really made that work.
Yeah.
Even with his introduction, and like his invitation to being invited as a Straw Hat, when they like after they defeat their victory at Thriller Bark, they beat Oars, they beat Moria, and they're throwing a party, right?
Yeah.
And that whole scene where he's singing Binky's Blues, like they're all in like in joyous laughter. I feel like that moment was very crucial, and like it's why trust me, I love Brook, but in terms of comparison, just like you said, Youseff, he definitely brings great moments. They're just so far and few in between.
Yeah,
it's interesting that he is the musician, and Youseff, you said he'll be the one that will carry on the Straw Hats not only for living longer, but he's the one who's going to tell the tales through the songs within the world that's going to keep it going. So he is character upon the ship, like he is part of the essence of the notion of them being together.
Yeah. Tyler, who's your least favorite Straw Hat? Do you agree? Is it Brooke or what?
No, I don't think it's funny because V said something earlier that about Nami that brightened her up a little more for me. Because I was gonna say she's kind of my least favorite. Her and Frankie again. I said I like his story, but just him when he acts panel by panel, I'm just like meh. And
Super.
Nami, yeah, and I'm just like great, right? All right, great, thanks. We ticked off our Frankie, super thing, and then whatever. And then he shoots a big beam, right? And like it's all right, that's cool, but it's kind of eh. But then I liked Nami during her arc, and her backstory was really great. But then it's again like kind of arc by arc. I'm not in love with the things that she's doing. What I do wish, and this is what V said, like her dream is very grand and like is very far reaching in terms of mapping the whole world. I wish we saw some more of that throughout the story. Like after they left an island, she's like, there's something that indicated she was maybe writing notes about it or actually had a little sketch or something like, and we were kind of mapping it as we were going. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Nami probably.
Yeah. And I know Youseff, you've been waiting for me to diss Chopper here. So my only issue of Chopper is post time skip, where pre-time skip, obviously he has a bunch of moments. He has a bunch of like great fights and shit. And by the way, you can see who's important by the opening to episode 1000, where like Zoro and Sanji and Luffy, they have like 10 seconds of clips, and then Chopper, it's like, oh, I was big in E's lobby, and then it's like nothing, and then it's like that for a few of them. But overall, Frankie's probably my least interesting for a lot of the reasons Tyler mentioned, and just like, yeah, it's cool, they're sailing on the ship that he made, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, sometimes the way he talks bugs me. Of course, I love them all. Nami, just in terms of likability, obviously we see why she is the way she is, but she's a thief. That's not cool. But she's a pirate, right? Everybody else is pretty likable. Chopper, though, yeah, he doesn't have anything interesting to say in any conversation after the time skip. And for the sake of this argument and whatnot, for lack of a better term, argument, I'd say Chopper. Yeah, Chopper, he doesn't do it for me after the time skip.
The fact that we had an array there, I think, is really cool, of characters that we had a lot of ones
that
that
we like and don't like. Yeah,
different ones that we dislike. I think is an interesting notion of a story.
I think it'll be a great point to bring up possibly in our next meeting, our next podcast, about like where Chopper would be going and if he's possibly salvageable, right? Because as we said here, Brooke carries on the lives of the Straw Hat, after their physical passing, right? But not, because their memories are commemorated through him and his stories and so on and so forth.
Right.
But I think there is also a very big point to Chopper, and I'm really looking forward to kind of flushing that out, as well as like looking into theories in the next podcast that we have.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna do this again. I have a million things. Like I have a bunch of like, we gotta do predictions. We gotta like discuss what do you think the One Piece is. Maybe before our next podcast, I'll read a little bit. I don't think I'd be too far behind if I pick it up from where Wano is left off.
Yeah, we can make this a nice continued series. We'll
we'll see how long this goes. Maybe eventually Jeremiah starts watching One Piece.
That would be great.
I wouldn't hold my breath on that one with 1,000 episodes to go. But this was fantastic, guys. Do you have anything to plug before we go? And like I said, just to reiterate, we're gonna do this again very, very soon.
Well, Gabe, thank you for having us. This is absolutely dope. I know you and I have personally spoken about wanting to do a One Piece episode for a while, so I'm very happy to be here. Y'all can check me out at Tyler on Demand 13, pretty much Instagram mostly, and then tylerondemand.com. As much of a One Piece nerd I'm a rapper, producer, and podcaster as well. So you can find a lot of my stuff at those hubs. Check me out.
Yeah, please do. He's a jack of all trades. He's very talented.
Much love. Thank you.
Youseff, anything, or you guys? What's up with you guys?
I just want to say thank you for having me. I haven't had the chance to formally talk about One Piece on a platform. It's it's such a great experience. As you said, we could really talk for weeks or hours.
Yeah, dude.
You did not even recognize the time that it is. And so I again want to reiterate, thank you for having me, and thank you for having us, so that we can kind of throw these ideas across each other and know that this living and breathing world that we read is beyond just the screens and panels that we read, and just and how we connect over it. It's very, very interesting. Luffy's power transcends just the anime, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Gabe. I think Youseff speaks for the both of us. Really glad to be here, bro. Appreciate you for bringing us together like this. Happy for the more days to come.
Yeah, and this was your first time on a podcast, the both of you?
Yes.
Oh, let's go.
Tyler,
nice.
they're pros.
I love it. Seriously, that was seamless. That was seamless.
Man. You guys,
well
just
done.
throwing it out there. Maybe do your own. You guys should have your own One Piece.
That's not bad. We could talk. You know,
listen.
2 podcast producers right here.
It should be interesting. You're putting ideas in my head.
Yeah, man.
It's not bad.
But this was fantastic. We are recording this the night before Thanksgiving. I want to wish you guys all a happy Thanksgiving. All of you listeners, happy Thanksgiving. As always, follow the Richie and Mecco Connection on Instagram, Twitter, all that. Join the Facebook group on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. We'll probably put the visual version of this podcast on YouTube, and then keep an eye out on us for TikTok as well, because Jeremiah has been handling the TikTok account lately. This is fantastic, guys. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll do this again.
Absolutely. Peace.
Thank you.